think what's interesting is there's a level of fear. It's a fear flicker. And sadly, when it's scary, we want it to go away.
Yes.
But the truth is, the longer you ignore it, it's almost like debt. It's like fear flicker debt, and it compounds and it expands and it grows and it gets louder. And so sadly, if you have that fear flicker that's trying to notify you, you don't really have a choice. I mean, either you're going to ignore it and it's going to get bigger, or you're just going to nip it in the bud, heed the call, and charge in. Like that's honestly your only two options.
Yes.
And so I think what's interesting is, what is your risk tolerance? What is a level of fear that's also practical? Because as you know, I've had 3 different companies. 2 of them were hot mess, expensive, exhausting disasters. I mean, I was literally using my personal credit cards, Julie, to charge cash advances to pay payroll for my employees with kids. I was 25. Like that is not good. That's not a good business model. It's not a good business plan. And I learned so many lessons through those failures. And I remember after the first 2 one of them was featured in Forbes, and within 18 months, the whole thing was shut down. I barely escaped with any money left. I mean, it was hard knock life with these 2 experiences. And so when it came time for my 3rd venture, like my fear flicker wasn't a flicker, it was a bonfire of terrified.
Yes.
And I think what was interesting was like this moment, I was on the beach with my best girlfriend, Sheena, and I was like, I just feel like such a freaking failure, like such a freaking loser. Because I listened to the fear flicker and I went for it, just like all the coffee cups say, like build the parachute on the way down and chase your dreams. I was like, I did all the things. How did I get here? Why isn't it working?
I did what you told me to do.
Yeah, like I rolled the dice and I'm losing at the table. And I'll never forget just bawling, crying on the beach. And my very best friend, Sheena, she looked at me and she goes, Erin, she's like, you are not your failure. Like there's you, and then there's some learnings that you accumulated. There was some acquisition of experience occurring there. There's you, and then there's your acquisition of experience that was a quote unquote failure. Right. And so just reframing that we are not what we do is so hard for people like us that are just so passionate about every day we get up, we hit the ground running, let's go change lives. But we aren't. Like, you are not Beachbody. I am not Get More Yes Media. You are Julie. I am Erin. And what we do is not who we are. And yet, I think the best way that you can begin to honor that delineation is to begin to really be super clear that the past, those experiences, those learnings, maybe it was embarrassing. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was a little too audacious, a little too ambitious, a little too much, whatever it was. I think what holds us back from honoring that fear flicker is we think to ourselves, but last time it didn't work. Last time it hurt. Last time I was afraid I'd never get back up again. And so I think there's like this interesting intersection of being brave and bold, but also learning from the past. And so for me, that intersection really, with my 3rd venture, I went back to corporate America. It took me 2.5 years to dig out of my debt, get more experience, get more clients under my belt, get more of what I needed to be able to be successful. And then my 3rd venture, Socialite, we launched it 10 years ago. And I waited this time. I didn't just jump out of the plane because I learned my lesson, right? So I had the flicker, but I also had the experience. That's the intersection. So I waited till I had 90 days of my salary saved up. And then I waited until I had 1 client that if I didn't make any money for 6 months, I would be okay. I said, that's the metric where I'm going to pull the ripcord and then I'm going to jump. Slight difference from the first 2 where I just jumped in. It made all the difference. 10 years later, we worked with some of the world's biggest brands running social media campaigns. And my agency was acquired this last January by one of the biggest global agencies in the world. And now I sit on their board as chief digital officer, and I only work if I feel like it with that company. But it was only after like the blood, sweat, and tears and the crying and the debt and the I'm a loser on the beach and why not me and what's wrong with me. And it was only until I separated me from what I was doing and reframed the failure as those key learnings, that fuel, that I was able to actually achieve what I defined as feeling successful.